Howdy. Really excited to get started. I think our kids have worked really hard. I think Tommy and his crew's done an unbelievable job. And, spring football as a football coach is like your favorite time of the year. You're just working with them, fundamentals. We work really hard, I think, to get ready for this and excited to get started.
Start on the left here, Rob Havens from Ags Illustrated.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
So tell me, you and Coach Elko had a relationship for several years. Talk about how that was back then and how it's changed kind of over the years. And when you got the call, tell us about your decision to come here.
Yeah. It's, Mike and I worked together almost 20 years ago. And University of Richmond, Dave Clawson was the head coach. Russ Huseman was our D coordinator. He's the head coach of Richmond now. Mike coached linebackers. I coach corners. Russ coached safeties. Ben Albert was our D-line coach. He's been in the NFL. He was the D coordinator for Coach Cutcliffe at Duke. And our one of the guys that are like GA was Patrick Graham. He's the D coordinator for the Raiders. So we had a pretty good crew right there for FCS football. But Mike and I were both young guys, kind of learning, and have had some success. Had relatively similar kind of like. Yeah, I went to Ball State. He went to Bowling Green. He went to Wake Forest. I went to Army, and so we always stayed in touch about scheme, philosophy stuff. Tried to visit every couple years. A guy that I always felt like in the off season I was going to catch up with. We kind of stayed in touch. I think we have similar personalities too, similar philosophies on how to play defense in college. And so I think when he got the job, I was fired up for him. I wasn't surprised. I always knew he'd get a chance like this at a program like this. So when he called me, right around signing date and said, what do you think? I was fired up. I was excited, and I think this is a special place.
To the left, second row, Alex Miller from the Bryan College Station Eagle.
Hey Jay, you guys hit the portal pretty hard in the secondary over the winter break. What are you hoping to see from that group, and just how you're hoping that position comes along?
Yeah, I think every day I'm out there, I'm really impressed with those kids. I think there's some kids, there's some young, really talented ones, and then there's some veteran guys that have played a lot of football, and I think that we needed some help back there. But I think the kids that were on the team have done a really nice job too. So there were some depth issues there for sure, but I think when you're out there and you watch this, I think the length at corner, the big body, speed, length at corner is impressive. I'm excited about those guys, and I got no idea who's going to end up being the starters and who's going to compete and play, but there's some really talented guys, and Jordan will do a great job with them. Ish is doing a great job with the safeties. So I think that group's become, when we first got here and Mike and I went through the depth chart, I was like, oh boy, and I think that group's going to become a strength for us. I really do.
Front row, Robert Cessna from Bryan College Station Eagle.
So how much did it help you that you were in the SEC a couple of years? Because everybody talks about how different the SEC is, and of course you've had a little bit of experience and talk about adjusting to the SEC.
I think this conference is different. I think the best players in college football play in this conference. I think it's been proven. I think when I left North Carolina and went to Florida, I don't know if I would have been prepared for some of the challenges to be a coordinator in this league. I think it also helped me a ton recruiting and knowing the players and knowing who was available when they went in the portal helped a ton too. But yeah, I think until you've been in this league, you really don't understand. I don't think that the matchup issues some kids create, and the schematic problems people create. So I think if you haven't been in this league, to become a coordinator in this league is hard. Mike and I have talked about that too. His first year when he got here, you learn quickly that some things you have to do differently.
Okay, Cease, follow up.
And then I know you work with Mike, but I had a laugh when a DC working for a former DC guy. I guess it makes it. I guess there are pros and cons, but the fact that you guys appear to be good buddies, I guess that doesn't factor into it. Is that right?
Yeah, when he's been awesome, but I also I've made it very clear to everybody in the room that ultimately there's somebody else who's going to make some of these decisions, right? And so, but he's been awesome, and I think we've all worked together to build this thing, and I think it's going to be really good.
Other questions? Okay, Alex, follow up, and then Carter.
So, kind of going off of that, talking about being in the SEC. What have you seen it takes to have a successful defense in this conference from your perspective?
So this is a big person league. The big people have to be really good. Your D-line, I think there's a certain level of talent and ability and depth you have to have at the defensive line, which I think we're pretty close to having. And I feel really good about Tony and Sean coaching those guys. So there's that. And then I think the skill matchups, you can't just roll out there. In some other conferences, you can roll out there and say, okay, yeah, like the linebacker's going to cover that guy, no problem. In this league, like you're done, right? And so I think like the matchup problems, trying to get like bodies on like bodies all the time, the overall skill of every skill player in this conference, I think it's just different. It's the closest thing to the National Football League.
Go front right, second row, Carter Correll's 247.
Hey, Jay, you talked about, obviously bringing in 2 Florida guys, Jaden Hill, Scooby Williams. What can you tell us about those guys? What are you expecting from them this spring?
Yeah, so Jaden, when I was at Florida, we thought he was going to the National Football League. He had been a 2-year starter for us, a really good player. And so when it came out that he was going to consider coming back for another year, it was a position in need for us. He's a young man I have a very high opinion of as a person, as a competitor, smart football player. And I just I said to Mike, I said, we got to go try to get this guy. And I mean, we were not the only one. So I think obviously my relationship with him helped a ton. But man, I love that kid, man. He's a competitor. He's tough. He's going to help us a lot, I think. And then Scooby, I hope Jamaica's listening, his mom. Scooby has been like my adopted son for 2 years at Florida. So I think he he's got a ton of ability, and I think a change of scenery was probably good for him. And I think he's going to be a kid at the linebacker position that's going to help.
Coach will go fourth row, Rob Havens, Ags Illustrated again.
Do you prefer to call the defense from up in the press box or on the field, and kind of talk about what are kind of the benefits of that?
I've done it both ways. I think it's better from the press box right now. Especially with the headset rules. Yeah, I think it's better from the press box.
Any other questions? All right, Coach. Thanks for your
that
time
was
today.
easy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.